Hi, so today we're going to be making a ditty bag. We'll be breaking this up into sections just to make it a little bit more digestible. No one wants to see me stitch a seam for a whole hour, but this is something that can be done in a day. This bag, I actually made this yesterday. Pretty straightforward, all done by hand. You're going to want some fairly heavy thread for this and about as thick a needle as you can find, especially if you're using a heavier canvas. This is 15-ounce canvas. To be fair, I've made a few ditty bags earlier on during quarantine where I used an old pant leg. So much lighter material. Use what you've got. Now, the pattern for this ditty bag, it's about 7 inches in diameter and about 13 inches tall for the finished product. The pattern was pulled from Hervey Garrett Smith's The Arts of the Sailor. And he's got very simple dimensions here. So the piece of fabric you're going to start with is 23.5 inches wide, 14 inches tall, and that will allow for seams. Now you're going to need another piece. You're going to want to cut square 8 inches by 8 inches for the bottom to make the round bottom. We'll get to that in the next section once we're done cutting this out. So what I've done was taken a piece of canvas here and a square, and I've laid out this edge, and this is the edge from the mill, so we know that's straight enough for our purposes. And I've marked out 23.5 inches here, 14.5 inches here. Now what I've done so far is I've marked our seam allowances. So I've given 1/2 inch here, 1 inch here. Given 1/2 inch here, and 1 inch here. So what I'm going to do is continue these lines to this outside edge and the bottom. So I'm going to do is take my ruler and go right up to the edge here. I'll mark out, and this is just with a pencil, I'll mark out 1/2 inch and 1 inch. Make a copy here. Go over to the other side and do the same thing. Mark out 1/2 inch and 1 inch. I know this is at the bottom, it's a little hard to see, but then we'll do from here is connect the dots. Start up top with the 1 inch. My pencil, this marks the canvas fairly well. Again, use what you've got that'll show up nicely on whatever material you have. Bring it down to the 1/2 inch. Make our line there. All right. And we'll just double check. Okay, 1.5 inches. Good. 1.5 inches. Okay. So we'll make a couple more marks from this side. Again, just for our seam allowances. The overall dimensions are going to be smaller with the finished product. So again, I'm marking 1/2 inch and 1 inch. And I'll just take it to this top line here because it's a little bit better defined. 1/2 inch and 1 inch. We'll connect the dots. So we've got it marked out, 14 inches tall overall, 23.5 inches wide overall, and we've made marks for our seam allowances. These are going to get folded over and stitched together. So what I'm going to do is cut this out, and in the next segment we will mark out the bottom of the bag on the offcut material here, and we've probably got enough over here to make the bottoms for a few different bags.